subject had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasants Perspective. Big day today for Erasure. Good morning from Boise. I know where he's at. Shantini from the Michigan land with her cheeseburgers. I bet they're already putting on a lot of weight. Those are little baby cows, by the way, for those of you that are wondering what we're talking about. Shantini, welcome. Glad you guys made it. And I see Ron is asking, good morning, Pony Boy.
Calling you out. Where are you, boy?
Where's he at? I got a message from a few people yesterday saying, hey, we got to watch on YouTube. I'm like, it's okay to watch on YouTube. Just make sure you share the show, thumbs up, comments, help us get in the algorithm.
Just don't do
algorithm. If you're going to leave Rumble and go to YouTube, you've got to do everything you can to justify us being over there. Usually that's a pretty tiny little audience, but we appreciate those of you that listen on Rumble. Obviously, we're in the quote unquote creator program, which basically means they help us track our metrics at this point and, almost covers the hosting fees. Yeah. Anyways, obviously this show's a great show, so we pay a lot of money to make sure it gets online and gets on all the audio players because we do have a pretty good audio audience as well. Those of you that are audio listeners, appreciate you very much. It's, a big chunk of our audience, obviously. This show started out as an audio podcast, and it's funny, but there's two types of people. There's audio podcast listeners and there's video podcast listeners, and the two shall very rarely cross paths. So anyways, a lot of fun, you guys. Glad you guys made it all out. Oh, there he is, Pony Boy. Good morning. Glad you're here. All right. I know why you guys pile in bright and early. Oh, Jen from England. She's live right now. She says, oh no, what did she say here? Go back to that. See, what did Jen say? She says, I'm on the YouTube as well. Can't get Rumble on the television. And I go, you watch it on television? I asked her that. And then just keep scrolling down. There was more there. She goes, no, I just feel like, and then she said, is it because I called it a television? Should I have said TV? And I was like, no, you call it television in your Geordie accent. No, I just feel like it's pretty good if you put it on television. You don't listen to the audio. Then when you are doing something else, that is pretty cool. She goes, oh no. We always watch you on the telly when we can. It's 2:30 p.m. here, so sometimes it's the school run, but we watch you later if not live. Yeah, to see your face every day just about. Oh, that's fun. That's so fun. That's awesome, man. People putting us on the television, Ron. My wife put me up on the television one time, and my son walked in the room, my little 7-year-old, and he looked up at the TV, and he's like, whoa. Is that dad? Yes, your dad is a famous television.
He's on the Magic Box.
Television show anchor. Wow. It's funny. My kids will tell their friends, what does your dad do? I don't know. He has like a YouTube channel or something like that.
My kids used to say, what does your dad do? Oh, he plays video games.
He plays video games.
Because I'm working on 3D CAD.
3D CAD, yes. I think it's a video game. Oh, that's pretty fun. All right. I know why you guys pile in here every morning. It's for the simultaneous sip, or if you're over in England, an afternoon tea, whichever it is. And all you need to do that is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee this morning, and join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. And it starts right now.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole. Donald Trump.
Yes, sir. Donald Trump, China. As we speak right now, Donald Trump is over in China having a big meeting. And on their way there on Air Force One, Marco Rubio sat down for an interview. And he had this to say about our relationship with China.
You view China as our top geopolitical foe.
Yeah, it's both our top political challenge geopolitically, and it's also the most important relationship for us to manage. I mean, it's a big, powerful country. It's going to continue to grow, but we're going to have interests of ours that are going to be in conflict with interests of theirs. And to avoid wars and maintain peace, and stability in the world, we're going to have to manage those. There are clearly areas where they're so important for the United States that we're going to have to raise those issues, and we'll continue to do so. The president's going to continue to do so. There might be some areas of cooperation too, and we want to make sure we don't walk away from those.
Yeah, definitely want to cooperate. Want to sell them our stuff. Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is a whore. Love that so much. All right, Brett Bear is over in China. Let's see. Good morning, Ponyboy. Jen from the living room. Cheerio. Yes, that's Jen from the living room. Cheerio. Carlitos, good morning. Glad you made it as well. Carlito and Tiffany over on YouTube. Good morning, y'all. Glad you guys are here as well. So Brett Bear is over in China. Obviously, Fox News sent a delegation, and he met with a top Chinese military person. Doesn't say what his rank is or anything, but top Chinese military. So if he's talking on behalf of China, I assume he's, on some committee somewhere. It seems to be important. And so he had this to say about the U.S.-China relationship, and specifically about China's ability to operate as a good faith actor in the 21st century as opposed to the 20th century.
Do you think that the tension is rising or subsiding between the U.S. and China?
That's a good fundamental question. I believe among all these kind of allegations, argument whatsoever, 21st century actually is easier for us to live in than during the 20th century, because that was characterized by a kind of ideological rivalry. Yeah, in 21st century.
Okay, that is interesting. The 20th century was characterized by an ideological rivalry. What is that rivalry? It's the same rivalry we talk about every single day. Collectivism versus independence, right? Okay. Liberty. So you've got communism, capitalism. That's the ideological rivalry.
Okay.
Now, he's saying that used to be the competition.
What is it now?
I'm wondering if they just realized they won.
Oh.
Has America become so collectivist that now we're kind of both playing on the same sheet of music? Or, and he says this, he's going to continue to say, it's now a rivalry. Or has China liberalized and become capitalist? Okay. Which I tend to believe, yes, they have. Economically, their communist economic model failed, and they have done a lot of things to open up their economy. One of the things they've done that the United States hasn't done, if they have not decentralized their economic system as far as the fiat system, but they've decentralized finance within China. So they're little, small, local, regional banks. You can go start a bank, get your charter, and actually compete with the major banks. Whereas here, the little banks are like, good luck. That's cute. I mean, it's really like they have a different, they've liberalized their economy. They allow their citizens to own gold. Now their perspective is there's no private property, so we'll just come get to gold later when we want it. Yeah, but sure. They've decentralized it, so they don't centralize it around a central bank like we do in Fort Knox.
Yeah, it's just in China.
The other thing too is they do compete on the world stage to sell stuff. Whereas they didn't do that until really Tiananmen Square, and then they started to liberalize, came into the WTO, and now they started selling stuff all over the world. And they compete at a high level too. I mean, like half the stuff in this office says made in China on the back. So they compete at a high level.
We are competing, even your term, we are competing within the semi-international system. Yeah, we are not your enemy, and we are best described by you as competitor. So competitors could live within the same system. And I believe because the world is facing so many changes, not only with climate change, but also like agentic AI, right? So it is really in our own interest for our two countries to take the lead. I don't mean G2, but for us to take the lead, to make this world livable at least.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
To make this world livable, at least. That's pretty good. So, I think China is an amazing nation. I absolutely despise the Chinese Communist Party, but that's 100 million people in a nation of somewhere between 500 million and 1.5 billion. Okay. This is video footage of Donald Trump, Tim Cook, and Chairman Xi yesterday. After they landed, they went and had a little street party.
这个夜市真热闹，大家一起吃得很开心。It's great, the best night market. The food is amazing. Cheers to that.
Just kidding. That's AI for those of you that don't know. So this is actually a really monumental moment in world history. So this could become very significant as time goes on. There's certain benchmarkers that happen, right? And this meeting in China is very, very significant. Obviously, the world order is being completely changed right now. We have the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin revolution simultaneous with the AI revolution. These two things go hand in hand. And so there's a lot of moving pieces to reset the world stage. Pray the Rosary Daily, good morning. Glad you made it. So we're going to listen to the opening statements of Chairman Xi when they sat down at their little boardroom meeting before they kicked the cameras out. And then we're going to listen to Donald Trump. It's a little bit of a longer clip, but again, it's important. These are the two most powerful nations in the world meeting. So let's take a minute and listen to what they say.
I'm very pleased to meet you in Beijing. Welcome back to China after 9 years. The whole world is watching our meeting. Currently, transformation not seen in a century is accelerating across the globe, and the international situation is fluid and turbulent. The world has come to a new crossroads. Can China and the United States overcome the Thucydides trap and create a new paradigm of major country relations? Can we meet global challenges together and provide more stability for the world? Can we, in the interests of the well-being of our two peoples and the future of humanity, build a brighter future together for our bilateral relations? These are the questions vital to history, to the world, and to the people. They are the questions of our times that you and I need to answer as leaders of major countries. This year is the 250th anniversary of American independence. Congratulations to you and to the American people. I always believe that our two countries have more common interests than differences. Success in one is an opportunity for the other, and a stable bilateral relationship is good for the world. China and the United States both stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. We should be partners, not rivals. We should help each other succeed and prosper together and find the right way for major countries to get along well with each other in the new era. Mr. President, I look forward to our discussions on major issues important to our two countries and the world, and working together with you to set the course for and steer the giant ship of China-U.S. relations, so as to make 2026 a historic landmark year that opens up a new chapter in China-U.S. relations. I will pause here and hand over to you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Well, President Xi, I want to thank you very much. First of all, that was an honor like few have ever seen before. And I think I was particularly impressed by those children. They were happy. They were beautiful. The military is obvious. It couldn't be better, but those children were amazing and they represent so much. And I know they represent so much to you. You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president has had. And that's to me an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you and you would call me. And whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked it out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together. Such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say it to everybody. You're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true. I only say the truth. And I just want to say on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, we asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said yes. And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business. And it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf. So I really look very much forward to our discussion. It's a big discussion. There are those that say this is maybe the biggest summit ever. They can never remember anything like it. I can say in the United States, people aren't talking about anything else. But it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Donald Trump brought the 30 top industrial titans from the United States with him.
What a brilliant move.
What a brilliant move. He brought the guy, right? Like Tim Apple. Okay. Elon Musk, you know, the CEO of Nvidia, he brought them all. Because in America, these men are market makers. They are movers and shakers. And American nationalism and American independence relies on each one of those men in some key strategic way. And so to bring them along with the president of the United States right there, those are the leaders in the world. Your senators, your state heads, your governors, they're just bureaucrats at the end of the day. But those men right there have executive decision capacity. And so to bring them to China to negotiate is pretty significant. Here was Donald Trump's opening remarks in a speech he gave prior to this meeting. It's pretty good.
As allies in World War II, President Franklin Roosevelt's mentions of the brave people of China, that's what they were, drew loud cheers in his speeches in the United States, and everybody loved what he had to say, just as many Chinese now love basketball and blue jeans. Chinese restaurants in America today outnumber the 5 largest fast food chains in the United States, all combined. That's a pretty big statement.
Can you believe that? They wear blue jeans and watch basketball. They watch more NBA than Americans do.
I believe that.
Yeah, they watch more NBA than Americans do. And we eat more Chinese food than we eat hamburgers nowadays.
I believe that.
Pretty good. Talk about cultural fusion.
那么作为二战期间的盟国，罗斯福总统在美国的多次演讲当中提到了勇敢的中国人民。正如当前许多中国人非常喜欢篮球和穿蓝色的牛仔裤，在美国目前的中餐厅的数量要比美国前5大快餐连锁店的总的店面还要多。
This bond of commerce and respect that stretches back 250 years is the foundation for a future that benefits both of our nations. The American and Chinese people share much in common. We value hard work. We value courage and achievement.
That's true. That is true. One of the things I really appreciate that Donald Trump does with both Russia and China is Russia helped us win World War II in Europe, and China helped us win World War II in Japan. If we did not have China as an ally, which again, we ended up kind of propping up Chairman Mao, and we ended up propping up Stalin, but nonetheless, had it not been for that, the world would have been dominated by the Imperial Japanese and the German fascists, the German Nazis. And so whenever we have any kind of high level interactions between Russia and China, Trump often reminds them that, hey, we won the last World War together. I mean, America, undisputed back-to-back world champs, right? Those guys won their regions, but they were critical allies to us at that time. Here's Chairman Xi openly declaring, let's make America great again.
Also, the 250th anniversary of American independence. The over 300 million American people are reinvigorating the spirit of patriotism, innovation, and enterprise, and ushering in a new journey for the development of the United States. The people of China and the United States are both great peoples. Achieving the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and making America great again can go hand in hand. We can help each other succeed and advance the well-being of the whole world.
55年前
Yeah, make America great again. And the great Chinese rejuvenation, which I'm pretty sure over in China translates over to something like make China great again.
Yeah, I was thinking it was like, yeah, thanks. Good job, guys. Good job, USA, making it to like a quarter of one of our dynasties.
It's interesting. China views themselves as one continuous 5,000-year civilization. Right. This is just the current iteration of imperialism, basically, for them. So, but they are 2049. They'll approach their 100 year under the since the Maoist revolution. And that's pretty significant for them. And they want to, have their place in the world staked out at that point, which is about right. I mean, by the time the United States hit our 100 years, we were trying to stake our place in the world too. Then we had a civil war. So, and that very honestly, given the trajectory that China's on, they very well may have a civil war at that point too. Yeah. Because you have a real crackdown going on in China right now. And, the human soul wants freedom. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that is kind of playing out for them over in China. So they have a lot of cracks in their system that could overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. But the Chinese people, right, once a factory is built, it doesn't really matter who's in charge of the government anymore. It matters that that factory keeps producing things. So China is here to stay to some degree or another. Now, some of the business deals that have already been cut have started to hit the news. So on Fox News, they reported one of the big ones, and that was chip purchasing from China through Nvidia.
To the H200 chip, it's not the most advanced NVIDIA, but it's the second most.
Second most powerful, yeah.
Second most incredibly powerful GPU designed for AI, high performance computing. So it is controversial that this chip is going to be sold in China.
Yeah, well,
to 10 different companies.
Yeah, I mean, but, again, but there's also a push within China for domestic production of their own chips. Who do you want to see win AI? Do you want it to be America? Do you want it to be
Todd, would you like to take that one? Would you like to take that one?
Again, the other issue is, and I'm going to get into this with our next guest, is if they get the chip and they try to build their own chips, what are they going to do? They're going to steal the technology from the chips that they get. So
exactly.
This is an issue. Chuck Sony, thank you. Don't miss more from Cheryl on Mornings with Maria. We appreciate it.
So from a capitalist perspective, if we can supply the chips at enough scale, it doesn't make economic sense for them to build the factories to replicate the chips because they have a solid supply. This is one of the reasons why we've lost our factories, is because, well, we can get a consistent supply from China or whatever for whatever gizmo gadget widget.
And if we want to make one of those chips, it only costs us $100 billion to set it up.
Exactly. So by giving them the supply, it chops them off at the knees to be able to produce it. Now, all of these chips, specifically the Nvidia chips, this has everything to do with AI, everything to do with AI. Fetterman, the voice of reason over at the Democrat Party, he says that the Democrats, who once were really big on AI because they were trying to build the control grid, now that Trump has unleashed AI to help capitalism, right, to help entrepreneurs, there's a different emphasis on what AI can do. There are certain things in the world, listen, AI is here to stay, right? Like I use AI on a regular basis. Yesterday, I used it for a couple business projects, and I was just like, man, this thing just saved me not hours, days,
maybe weeks,
days. Just two specific things that I used AI to create yesterday saved me days. And it worked in minutes. And when I got done with yesterday, I had a super long day. I wasn't done. Literally, I was on screens doing Zoom and the other things I do for 10 hours yesterday. I didn't wrap up my day till about 8:30 at night. And obviously here I am starting at 6:30 a.m. Okay. And in between some of my Zoom meetings, I used AI to create some just simple transcription type things and a contract. And I was like, dude, I used to set aside a day to do the contract. It did it in obviously just minutes. And then to transcribe something that a presentation I had done, it took minutes. And I was just like, and it formatted it for me. I was like, dude, this is just stupid how it is a
well, it's just such a powerful tool, and the same tool could be used to keep you all in jail.
Yes, exactly. Or produce untold amounts of productivity and human freedom. I'm like sitting in my little home office, which is just the corner of my garage, and I'm doing the work that I used to have employees that would have to help free up my time so I could do some of these things. So it was really, really impressive. So sorry to the employees that are not working because I'm using these.
They already got replaced.
I already got replaced. Technically, they never got hired for this venture. Okay, so this is John Fetterman talking about AI and how the Democrats, who at one point were like, we're just going to dominate AI. Remember, Kamala Harris went and met with the different AI companies, and they were like, yeah, don't even develop it. We're just going to take it all over, and we're going to let you guys have a brand, but you're going to follow our regulations, blah, blah, blah. And one of the I can't remember who it was, but he walked out of that meeting and the interviewer goes, well, what do you do? He goes, you walk out and you endorse Donald Trump. So here's John Fetterman talking about how the Democrats are all poo-poo on AI.
Here we are right now, in the Democratic Party. Something that's so important that's going to transform our world, AI. People in my party now becoming anti-AI and data centers. People in my party are calling for a moratorium, in our country. That's lunacy. That's China first kind of a policy in our nation. I'll be the one Democrat to just stand up and say that's ridiculous. We have to be the people that build the chassis of AI. Now that's why I'm proud to say, look, I think it's definitely country over party. Even something like transformative like AI and data centers here in my party.
Yeah. By the way,
yeah. Now, it's a double-edged sword, Ron. It's a double-edged sword because with AI comes huge amounts of productivity. It can absolutely unleash the human ingenuity and capitalism and things like that. Or it can be a tool for your enslavement. Kind of like fire. Kind of like fire.
Kind of like money.
Kind of like money. Exactly. Especially if you take money out of the hands of the people. So here are some of the deals that have been cut already. Every single one of these appears to be good for America.
Success, right, Ainsley? Well, that's what you're hearing from Sean?
Yeah, so I talked to Sean this morning because it's easy. They're 12 hours ahead. So it's 6 o'clock in the morning here. It's 6 p.m. there. So they're getting ready for the state dinner. You see Dina Powell there on the left. You see Marco Rubio. We saw Scott Bessent. So I talked to Sean this morning and he just finished interviewing President Trump, and that's going to air fully on his show tonight. But I said, what were the takeaways? And he said that President Xi will help with Iran. He said, quote, whatever Trump needs, committed to buy U.S. soybeans, more oil, LNG, which is the liquefied natural gas, and other energy. He agreed to buy 200 jets of the 737 MAX jets from Boeing. He said 200. Originally, it was 500. He surprised Xi and he invited the president of China to go and meet with all of our U.S. CEOs, Lauren.
Success, right, Ainsley? Well, that's.
So let's see. Let's look at the list here. So we've got on Iran, give us, quote, anything Trump needs. 2, buy more soybeans, buy more U.S. oil, buy more liquid natural gas, and buy 200 Boeing jets. And if only Washington State had good business policies, we would benefit from that jet building. I'm sure we'll get a couple of those jets, but a lot of them are going to end up being in South Carolina, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
God, Bob Ferguson, great communist.
Katie Wilson.
Katie Wilson. All right. So here's Scott Bessent talking about Iran and specifically about the oil situation there. And this is all, of course, in relation to what's happening with China, because we're going to talk about the gas and the LNG purchases. This is a big deal.
What we're seeing is the loading facility, the main loading facility for Iranian oil is a facility called Karg Island. We've seen that there have been no loadings in the past 3 days. We believe their storage is full. None of the ships are getting out. None are coming in, so they're not able to store oil on the water. So they're going to start shutting down their production. We can see that that's happening from satellite photos. But more importantly, Joe, exactly as you said, this is a diabolical regime. Thus far this year, they executed 40,000 people, many of them peaceful protesters. And so how do you deal with a regime like that? You squeeze them economically, and we believe we're at the point where soldiers aren't getting paid. They're not able to replenish their weapon stocks from abroad. So, I think that they are on their last legs, and the blockade, President Trump's blockade, has been a resounding success.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So Iran's oil production is getting shut off. And as soon as those wells stop pumping, we can pull our ships out, leave them to be. They're not going to turn those wells on anytime soon, right? They're going to have a fraction of the production they once had. Mm-hmm. And so they're right on the tipping point. Not only can they not pay their soldiers and their police officers to enforce their regime, they're not going to be able to turn on the money spigot in order to make up the back pay. Mm-hmm. So they're at the brink, which has now put China into a box, because what do they need? They need that oil. They need that gas. And so they're going to go to the guy who's got the supply.
Details of the deals China is already committing to in over the last day. Fox Business anchor David Asman, trying to put the piece of the puzzle together. David, you've been tracking this. What do you think so far? Because I'm encouraged that we're talking about selling them oil and gas. And I spoke to the senator from Alaska yesterday, and he was telling me that they're looking to explore Alaska, which is a much shorter distance than the Strait of Hormuz.
Absolutely, it is, and it's with specific regard to the rare earths. I mean, drill baby drill. Donald Trump's policy about energy doesn't just deal with oil and oil products. It's also talking about the rare earths that we're hoping to develop here in the United States, getting rid of a lot of the onerous federal regulations that happened were goosed up during the Biden administration. We saw them really roll out during the Obama administration. So we're way behind the curve in terms of doing that. But U.S. companies, with all of their ingenuity.
So getting oil from Alaska. Ron, is that good for Alaska? You've spent quite a bit of time up there.
Yes, it would be great for Alaska. The Alaskan residents all get a cut of everything that they export.
Yeah. Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah.
That's what
my
you
brother
get
lived up there for enough of a time that he actually got one of the checks, and he was like, he didn't have to do anything. It's just the end of the year. He got a check.
It's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's thousands of dollars. Which, man, I wish every state did that. Like, we got a cut of the natural resources.
Yeah.
That, if you're a business owner and you own the land and you're paying that lease, it should go to the residents of that state.
Donald Trump's plan to get rid of the IRS is basically the same thing. Just everybody would get a cut of the GDP.
Yeah.
Why
Which
not?
would be great. Which would be great. So Marco Rubio, this is one of the most articulate explanations of why Iran had to be dealt with now. And for the anti-doing any intervention in Iran crowd, this is what you were up against, right? If we want to create parity with China so we can truly be rivals, we have to compete in a free market. And what does a free market mean? Does that mean we drop all of our borders and we just let No. What it means is everybody on an international level plays by the same rules.
They have to play competitively.
You have to play competitively. Like, once stuff goes out of your country, then that price needs to be set by the market. You can't have these slave nations like Iran and China that are getting undervalued oil that no one else is allowed to buy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're undercutting everybody because their labor is cheap. Free.
They're undercutting everybody. Eyes on them. They care about what's in the press. You know what Iran didn't care about? Any of that. Right? They've got a theological, a theocracy, and their whole modus operandi is what's going to happen when you die. Right? The thing that nobody can verify. You know what the Chinese Communist Party does not put into their calculations?
70,000 virgins.
Yeah, 70 virgins when you die a martyr. Okay? The Chinese Communist Party is atheist. So to them, when you die, the lights go black. Right. So it's all about quality of living today. And so here's Marco Rubio describing why Iran had to be dealt with.
States. Joe Biden was begging to get back into a nuclear deal with them. The whole world, the French, the Germans, the UK, they imposed new sanctions on Iran last year, snapback sanctions because of the nuclear threat. The whole world has seen Iran was building up a conventional capability where they would have so many missiles and so many drones that they could overwhelm anybody's defenses. Once they had that, nobody could do anything about their nuclear program, because they would say, if you attack our nuclear program, we will wipe out 6 countries in the Gulf region and you won't be able to defend against it. You won't have enough patriots, because you get these swarms of drones, these swarms of rockets. They were on the verge. In a year from now, they would have been at that point. The president said that's an intolerable risk. People are struggling to make that connection, but the connection is very real. They were building such a high number. They were going to have so many drones and missiles that no one can attack Iran, because the result would be catastrophic for the region. And once they had that immunity, then they would break out towards a weapon. We knew that. The president's not going to allow that to happen under his watch.
Yeah. And I think the more you study Iran, the more you recognize that they built into their religious belief system the imperative to destroy Israel. So regardless of how you feel about Israel, right, the idea that a one nation would have built into their business model the destruction of another nation, not a rivalry, not a competition, not winning a competition or some kind of race, but actual destruction, untold amounts of death.
Total wipeout.
Total wipeout. That was built into their theocracy. If we do this, no matter what happens to us, the 70 virgins await, right? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Ayn Rand reminds us that free markets. Now, what are free markets? This does not free markets, AKA no tariffs. This is not nation states raising capital to invest in national defense and things like that. That's not what she's disparaging here. But she's saying in free markets, all economic downturns and all economic failures are caused by intervention from the government.
No goodwill is necessary, only self-interest. I believe in private roads, private post offices, private schools.
When industry breaks down momentarily and there is unemployment, mass unemployment, we should not be permitted to get unemployment insurance. Social security we do not need. Will depend upon the self-interest of these enlightened industrialists whom you so admire to take care of things when the economy needs a little lubrication and there are millions of people out of work.
Study economics. A free economy will not break down. All depressions are caused by government interference. And the cure is always offered so far to take more of the poisons that cause the disaster. Depressions are not a result of a free economy. No good.
Now, the United States, as it currently is constituted, is a corporation. So if our tax dollars actually went to pay for the roads, then you are making a shareholder investment in the government corporation to provide things like highways. Now, for the layman, we assume this is the case.
We assume it's happening all the time.
We assume that's what's happening. We assume that when you pay taxes, the potholes will get filled in. We assume that when you pay taxes, the post offices will get built and your stamp pays for the transportation of the individual letter, right? We assume that. We know after the creation of the Federal Reserve and the IRS in 1913, we know that after the 1932 election of Franklin Roosevelt and the 1933 confiscation of gold and silver bullion for private use, we know by coming off the gold standard in 1971 by Richard Nixon, that by the 1980s, when the Reagan administration formed a commission to study where do these tax dollars go? So here's the government who's supposed to provide all these services. They're looking at their national debt go up, and it's harder and harder to fill in the potholes. And they ask themselves, where does this money go? And that commission determined that the money, not $1 you pay to the IRS goes to potholes.
You say it ain't so.
No, I'm serious. It goes to pay the interest on the national debt, which is where they print money out of thin air in order to provide whatever services they want. And then we indefinitely pay interest on it, infinitely pay interest on it, because it just refinances. Every time a bond matures, they just create another bond to refinance that one. It's just an ever-growing national debt. So in Ayn Rand's vision of the world, the United States is a corporation, and we pay that corporation to provide necessary services that an individual industrialist can't provide. Those roads are private roads. They're property of the government. Does that make sense? And we pay a fee to use them via taxation. But in the current model, where taxation doesn't go to pay for anything, it goes to pay interest on debt on things that we did not invest in or authorize by corrupt politicians, et cetera, the whole system breaks down and it requires government intervention. I believe Donald Trump's trying to return us to a world like that. There will not be a day where we don't have taxes in some form, right? In the state of Washington, without income taxes, we are the state of the free, but we have a huge fee, right? So every service you need that the government provides, that they have a monopoly on, whether or not we like it. Some things could be better done by complete private competition, but there are some things like, I'm not sure that we should have, domestic corporations owning roads. Okay. But we would pay a fee for those things. However, our country's turned total communist where they control everything. And so now we've got, the system as we have it with a millionaire's tax that's eventually going to go apply to the guy that makes $5. Okay, so Marco Rubio, in that same sit-down interview on Air Force One, he also mentioned something else about the current state of relations with international affairs. As you heard Chairman Xi talk about, he says the international environment is fluid. So we have long-standing alliances. For example, the North is it North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. For example, NATO, we have this alliance, and you'd think that all these countries would have our backs and we'd have their backs and vice versa. But that didn't turn out to be the case with this issue in Iran, which, again, as Ayn Rand says, everybody's ultimately self-interested. When you're trying to do things for the other and you're trying to weaponize your virtue and you self-cannibalize your resources and things like that, you end up in situations where the United States has a huge military presence in Spain, and we're defending Spain from the boogeyman. But then when we need something as simple as a landing strip in Spain to project power into Iran, because we're protecting Spain from Iran, right? And they refuse to do it. Well, Spain's acting in their self-interest, but here we are spending an incredible amount of resources defending Spain to then turn around and not be able to use them at the moment we need to use them.
Protecting our national interests in the Middle East, as an example, or in Africa. And so when you have NATO partners denying you the use of those bases, when the primary reason why NATO is good for America is now being denied to us by Spain, as an example, then what's the purpose of the alliance? It starts becoming they're allies when they want to be, kind of. And look, to be fair, there are countries in NATO that were very helpful to us. I just singling one out, Portugal. They said yes before we even told them what the question was. Poland. So there are countries that Romania, Bulgaria, others like Spain have been atrocious, just horrifying. So I do think there's some very legitimate questions to ask about NATO, and that is, what is the purpose of being an alliance whose benefit to us is these basing rights, if in a time of conflict like the one we've had with Iran, they can deny us the use of those bases? So why are we there for? Only to protect them, but not to further our national interests? This is a very legitimate question that we need to address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in prison, I ran Atlas Shrugged twice. And I came away, one of the things she says in there is selfishness is the highest of virtues, self-interest. And I actually compare this to the New Testament teaching, love God with all your heart, mind, and strength. And when you go figure out who God is and you come up with this idea that he's the I am, and you go, well, I am Taylor, all of a sudden there's kind of a mirror happening there, right? We're supposed to find God within, and you know, we're children of God. So if we love God, we love ourselves. So love yourself with all your heart, mind, and strength. Self-preservation. Don't commit suicide. Do what you're sent on this planet to do. And then love your neighbor like unto yourself.
Yeah.
So selfishness, being self-interested, is a high virtue. We enshrine certain of these values in our Bill of Rights, like freedom of speech. Whose speech? My speech. Right to bear arms for self-defense. Whose defense? My defense. Right to not quarter troops in my house. Whose house? My house. Right to privacy in your papers, persons, and effects. Whose person, papers, and effects? My person, papers, and effects.
Whose privacy?
Right to not testify against yourself and not speak ill of yourself. Whose self? Myself, the Fifth Amendment. Right to a speedy trial and to confront your accuser. Why? So I can settle the conflict or the claim made against me. Do you see how in our own Bill of Rights we enshrined these same principles, that I have the right to be self-interested? We only delegate to government the structure of government for our self-interest, to regulate my vices. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now, one of the other things, shifting on to a little bit of more of an economic perspective when it comes to money, right? So one of the things that, well, Ron, let's do an ad real quick.
I'm trying.
We'll make our big shift. I know, every time you pop it up there, get a little distracted.
It's like a blue light for mosquitoes.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Oh,
well, I haven't just hit the first one that pops up.
Trinova Health. Access Med, powered by Trinova Health, is a revolutionary healthcare service, telehealth service that offers fast, free online evaluations and free home delivery of customized compounded medications, offering custom weight loss support, ivermectin therapy, hair restoration, cosmetic rejuvenation, custom ED treatments, and more. You can complete your visit in less than 10 minutes, and there's no subscriptions or recurring fees ever. We made getting started easier than ever. Simply follow the link, choose the product or treatment you're interested in, and then complete a quick online evaluation. Within days, your custom meds will arrive to your door. Mention Rumble in the coupon code and get 10% off your first treatment. Pow!
That's awesome. Good job, Rod. Thank you so much. Okay, so shifting over to money. when we traditionally talk about money, you've got the fiat people who most people are going to understand that the fiat system is a debt-based system. It's financial slavery. So then we start talking about sound money. And of course, the Constitution has gold and silver. Well, one of the and the reason for that is it is hard to get, it is hard to produce, and it lasts a long time, specifically gold. Silver can tarnish, right? Which is why it's the little brother to gold. But what happens is as the value increases, so as industrial capacity increases, as GDP increases, then there's an incentive for miners to mine more gold and silver. As the value of those commodities, gold and silver, go up, then you're not working with a finite supply. You can increase the supply. So as gold went parabolic over the last couple of years, you've noticed the prices dropped. Why is that? Because there's more supply of new gold being dumped onto the market every day through the miners. They're making more money mining the gold.
Makes sense.
Well, silver has the same effect. Silver has utility value in all these big data centers. And one of the things that has suppressed the supply of silver is the low prices, the paper silver that's out there, the hypothesization of silver. And so last year, I was really excited about silver. Obviously, I was living on a silver standard, and it was great. It went from like $29 at the beginning of the year up to $124. Now, all along the way up, I was reading two things. Some people were saying, and if I parroted this, I'm sorry, gold, silver's going to $600 an ounce. And it very well could have on the current supply that was around of silver based on the projected demand needed for AI centers and computers and things like that. Made perfect sense. Well, as the price crossed over $85, there were a lot of voices that said, don't you guys know that that's the break-even price for deep earth mining? For deep earth mining, that's the break-even price. So sure enough, the price went to $124 and it came right back down to $80, $85, which also flushed out a lot of the paper holders of silver because they cashed in, they got their fiat, reducing the amount of paper supply. So now you're dealing with more of a solid industrial value of the silver. And guess what, Ron? The miners went to work. As soon as the price made deep earth mining possible, we've got this report, 50,000 meter drilling already found high-grade silver at depth, and the fresh core being cut right now, targeting deeper than the San Martin type mineralization of the earlier programs to find. And so we now have essentially, as far as our next 100-year needs of silver, we have an infinite supply of silver.
Dang. What this is this AI?
No, this is real.
Shut up.
Okay. So, all of your silver bullion you've got tucked away, well, there's your competition. Diluting,
my God.
Diluting the supply, therefore decreasing the value of your physical silver. Isn't that interesting? Right. So again, it's another one of those things where the market got made. Once it hit the price point, immediately the mines were like, okay, now we can go deep and get that silver. And now they're the ones selling it to the data centers. And now your coins just become collectibles again. So Bitcoin, why is Bitcoin so much different? Because Bitcoin, not only does it not have the issues of requiring intermediaries, but it has a finite supply, right? 21 million. So the Bitcoiners always talk about how it's infinity divided by 21 million. What's the value of Bitcoin? Infinity divided by 21 million. What's the value of silver? Well, I don't know. There's more silver in the, if we got all the silver that was available at the depth that those guys were drilling around the world, your silver would be worth a couple pennies. Okay. It would be worth almost nothing because the supply can be increased almost infinitely. Here's a little picture I'm going to put up on the screen for those of you that are seeing this. Now, anytime we're dealing with fiat currency, which is very convenient, right? With you living in a gold world and you can't transport the gold, then you end up putting it in the bank. And the banks create a bunch of intermediaries. You've got things like PayPal, Venmo, MasterCard, American Express, right? Those are the point of sale places. And then those reconcile with the banks. And that's how you and I, Ron, would have to do a transactions. Look at Bitcoin. Look at the simplification of that. It's peer-to-peer, right? Peer-to-peer. Now, what makes Bitcoin complicated is you've got to learn how to be the bank. You've got to learn how to be the transmitter. All in one. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's just too complicated. I'm used to the bank, storing it. I'm used to MasterCard transporting it. It's just too complicated for me. So we have a solution for that at 1776live.us. This Saturday at 10 a.m., we're going to be doing a live on the 1776 Live Rumble page. We will be doing a presentation by Mr. Tom Phillips, who will be talking about our Bitcoin class. We're huge fans of Bitcoin because it solves all these problems. It solves all these problems. So I invite every single one of you to join us in on Saturday at 10 a.m. for that class and understand that Bitcoin is the future, and it requires us to use it to replace the banks, replace the intermediaries. What Iran talks about, government intervention, all of those institutions are regulated. Bitcoin cannot be regulated by its very nature. And so it is a revolution. If you want to secure independence and freedom in the coming AI age, if you want to secure your place in the future as a peasant, Bitcoin is where you need to be. This is coming from the crypto.com Las Vegas convention that they had, and they were talking about Bitcoin as compared to fiat, because fiat is their product. And when I say they, I mean the corporation of the government. They force you to use it, and they can print as much as they want. They can print as much as they want to pay for anything they want, right? When it comes to silver and gold, the price goes up. Miners will go find that deep earth gold. I mean, shoot, price goes high enough, we'll go pull in one of those asteroids from outer space. There's more gold on it than the whole world has combined, right? So as they have utility, they will be replicated. And this is why central banks have been gathering gold, but at the same time, they're also not too hot on too much of it, because as a store of value, it starts to be limited, which is why one nation after another are starting to turn to Bitcoin. And we, the people, have to turn to Bitcoin too. And it's how we break the system.
And we're seeing it already around the world. Yeah, I mean, this country was funded by tariffs from 1776 to 1913. You know what was created in 1913? The Federal Reserve and the IRS. Shocker, right? And if you go back even to the 80s, where Ronald Reagan, Executive Order 12369, the Grace Commission, back then they proved 0% of your federal income tax dollars went to any public service or public good. It all went to paying interest on the debt. So you're all goyim, you're all tax slaves in this system. There's no way out of it. The only way is to opt out. And if enough of us do it, we only need about 3.51% of the population, and it's a DDoS attack on their enforcement bureaucracy. You can't arrest every single one of us. You can't send the military to all of our houses to take our seed phrases. Okay, and so this is a revolution. This is digital violence. This is the moral high ground saying, no, I no longer support the exploitation of my energy to do things that are against my morality. Well, guys, we're coming up to the end of it.
Exactly. Right. Everything Bitcoin offers, fix the money, fix the world. Here's a gentleman, I don't even know who this is, but he kind of speaks to millennials. And I am not an advocate that you should rent everything you ever want to use, okay? But he makes a really good point. The fiat system is debt slavery, because you always have to produce more to pay the taxes. Even owning property, you have to continually produce to pay the taxes. We hear story after story of people who worked 30 years to pay off their mortgage and then get foreclosed on by the sheriff because they can't pay their property taxes, because the supply of money has gone up so high that the valuation of the property has gone up so high that they can't afford the percentage that they're required to pay in taxes every year. Mm-hmm. And people every day across America, a retired person on a fixed income has to either leave their house or is forced out of their house because of that regime. Bitcoin is a solution.
You can make 10% on your real estate every single year. Why would I can do that with Bitcoin. I can just sell it the next day. Oh yeah, but you have a place to live. Yep, I can just rent it. And I don't own any of the liabilities. Oh, well, why don't you own a yacht? Why would I just rent it when I need it? It's all about freedom. It's the freedom game, guys. If you have too much things tied up to you, they can take these things away from you. You don't need the house. You don't need the car. You don't need any of these things. You just need to be able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. That's it. Once you hit that metric, dude, you're cruising. Don't add all these fucking liabilities.
Now, when he talks about that, it kind of has this feel of like a loosey-goosey life, right? You know, just float. It's not that. You should own property if you want to be a farmer. If that's what floats your boat, Bitcoin allows you the freedom to do the thing you want to do. And if it involves owning property, or if you want to own a yacht because you want, do it.
Or have a car.
Yeah. It's not saying rent everything and don't own anything. No, someone's got to own things. But it's the idea that you don't get stuck in the rat race. Over the years, because of the nature of what I've done for years and years and years, I've consulted and helped a lot of people try to transition out of their slave job into an entrepreneurial activity so that they can build their own dream. Don't build someone else's, build your own, right? Build your own dream. Do what you love. And if what you love is working for someone else doing coding or that's fine, but make sure it's your dream.
Yeah, make sure you're not just keeping up with the Joneses just to be keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah. And over the years, I engaged in some business activities that created a lot of burden. That I had to then work to pay the bills and pay the employees, and I stopped building my dream. And those are the most unhappy moments of my life. And so Bitcoin offers you freedom. And remember what Kevin Warsh said, it holds policymakers accountable. Is this highway worth building? Is this post office worth building? Is this an investment in the future? Or is this just a way to, print money and put some senator's name on some bridge or overpass somewhere? Does that make sense? Is it worth having, making significant real investments? Bitcoin starts to, when the more I learn about Bitcoin, people say Bitcoin changes your brain. And for me, last year when I was doing the silver standard, it definitely changed my brain. And adopting Bitcoin has been easy because I no longer think in short term, I think in long term. Is this worth the expenditure of my Bitcoin today?
Well, you don't have to worry about all the ways that your dollar's getting chiseled on every second.
Exactly. Now, I do believe that the Donald Trump administration and the MAGA agenda, when correctly understood from an economic level, is about changing the way we do finances. Because we are on the fiat drip system, drip, 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 money goes all over the place, and it has been completely held unaccountable. And so J.D. Vance has been put in charge of the fraud in the United States of America. And he held a little press conference back in March, and he said this. It was really interesting. And then I'm going to show you the results of their collaboration to go after the fraud. Again, money doesn't go to these services. We print new money to pay for these government programs. And then this is why we say your children will pay the debt on this. You could never pay it off. It's infinite amounts of interest that have to be paid for every dollar printed for one of these programs.
It's the basic problem that we've had in this government going back for probably 30 or 40 years is that you've never had an administration that has really taken this seriously until the president put us really from day one of the Trump administration, who said, we have to take the fraud issue seriously. And a lot of the anti-fraud protections that existed in our government for a very long time were actually turned off by the Biden administration. So we think fraud has been a problem for a long time. It became a massive, massive problem under the Biden administration. We're going to do a number of things. First of all, we're going to turn back on those anti-fraud protections so that all of these cabinet officials are looking at what's going on and focusing on it. The second thing is that we're going to take a whole of government approach. So much of what's going to make the anti-fraud task force work is that we're communicating across different departments. So when Bobby Kennedy is talking to Scott Bessent about things that he's seeing in Medicare and Medicaid, when Scott is seeing things at Treasury, when Brooke is seeing things at agriculture, when Scott is seeing things at housing and urban development, what we're going to actually do is force the bureaucracy to take this seriously and work together as political principles to make sure that we stop allowing fraudsters to steal the American people's money. It's the basic problem that we've had in this.
The interest payments that we pay forever on that stuff. So here's a result. Mehmet Oz had a press conference yesterday, and they are cracking down on the hospice fraud, which happens everywhere. Florida, California, it's all across the country. And a lot of it is run by Russian and Cubans and even, can't remember, some Chinese cartels, essentially, that are running these fraud rings where they create these hospice centers, and then there's nobody in there. Nobody ever dies, even though you'd think they would. And they just create this drip, drip, drip of money that then they'd funnel back to Cuba or back to China or back to Russia. Free money, right?
Well, it makes you want to go there when you get old because, man, you live forever.
Yeah, you live forever. Exactly. Especially the Bills. They live forever. So Mehmet Oz has decided to not issue any more hospice care licenses.
today announcing a moratorium nationally. There will be no new hospices or home health care open in this country. If you have the program now, you can keep it. You can go to ones that already exist. We're not taking away any services, but there will be no new ones, licenses granted until we can figure out a better way of working across government. Let me highlight this, because when Andrew, who's leading, and the vice president are chairing this task force, it's very simple. You have CMS, you have OIG, March Bell sitting over there. You have the Department of Justice, you have the FBI, you have Treasury. You put those things together, you make a powerful fist. And that's the fist we're going to punch through bureaucracies and realities that are stopping our ability to protect the American people.
Exactly. If we're going to pay the corporation for those services, there better be some accountability. And so now they're going to go after it hardcore. That's a big deal. Can you think of any other time in American history where they have just turned off the spigot? No new licenses, because we can't guarantee any of you guys aren't fraudsters.
Yeah, I can't think of a time.
If you're a hospice care owner right now and you're looking at your empty facility, you better go find some people to fill those beds. You better go find some people to fill those beds really quick. All right. On the political intrigue side of things, we all have our favorite watermelon head, Adam Schiff. Okay, he's always good for a laugh. So there was a hearing with
what's Cash he lying Patel. About now?
Huh?
What's he lying about now?
Everything. His lips are moving, Ron. He's a politician. So here is Adam Schiff in a hearing with Cash Patel. And this is just rich, okay? If you don't think Adam Schiff is in the crosshairs from the DOJ and the FBI, you're fooling yourself. Now, remember, he was a recipient of a pardon from Joe Biden.
He's in the top 10 for sure.
He's top 10. There are some dark allegations against Adam Schiff. Dark allegations.
Right.
Things that were captured on video in Chateau something hotel in California. Nancy Pelosi having
I put him in the top 10. He's really like my top guy, my personal top guy. But I put him in the top 10 because, there are people like Hillary, Obama, Brennan, Comey. There's so many of these, just dirtbags.
He's top 10 for sure. Top 5, top 3.
Yeah.
He's one of the worst. Okay. He's the worst. In the Senate, he's by far the worst.
Oh, yeah.
So he is still going along with the whole Russiagate narrative, all the things he's pushed that have been totally debunked at this point. He cannot acknowledge these problems. Okay.
My personal opinion, he's pushing this like his life depends on it, because it does.
Yeah. And when you hear this exchange, you'll see why his life depends on it.
People to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No, I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of inmates.
Not in the weeds?
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Wow.
You can take an internet troll.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and the state and citizens of California. We are bringing historic reform. Point of order. But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
you said I'm the most transparent FBI director in history. 33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Whoa, dang.
Ooh, that guy's got a gun and a badge, Ron. That guy's got a gun and a badge. You're the largest, biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate.
Wow.
Wow. Wowzers.
I've been waiting for a clip for that, like 5 years.
Oh, my goodness. I know, right?
The next clip needs to be a courtroom.
Yeah, dude. Wowzers. Okay. Now, do you remember when Swalwell, his whole scandal broke, and there was that billionaire who was Swalwell was living in his house?
Which scandal?
The one where we found out. Yeah, exactly. It was the one where he got the one that made him leave office, right?
Yes, I do remember.
Yeah, he resigned from running for governor, and he was living in a billionaire's house. And do you remember how the billionaire said, I just switched parties because, he switched to a Republican Party.
Yes.
And he's like, the trust was busted. The trust was busted, right? So that billionaire, who, again, has serious vested interests in the economics of California, has always got to have his inside man in the cabinet or in the governorship. And so he's going to support whoever he thinks can win. Guess what, Ron? He was arrested yesterday.
Oh,
I know, right? A billionaire was arrested. So let's hear the story. Now, I believe there's a tie-in to this.
Uh-oh.
I've shared this story privately with people, but I had a cellmate named doesn't matter what his name is. I had a cellmate who his wife, not his girlfriend, his wife was a high-end escort.
Ooh,
and his wife, as well as other women that were in this circle of essentially porn stars.
All right, just the facts, man.
Would date billionaires or multi-millionaires, go live with them as mistresses and whatnot.
All right.
And they would, of course, find out where the safe was and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Well, all of those relationships always end poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what the girls would do is they'd come to this gentleman and they would go break into the houses, and they usually knew where the hide key was, right? So there was no like broken windows or forced entry or anything like that. They'd go straight to the safe, and he could crack safes.
Oh.
He's a good safe cracker.
Okay.
He'd crack the safe, and he'd take out hundreds of thousands of dollars, diamonds, gold, all that kind of stuff. And out the door they go. Now, these millionaires and billionaires never reported the crime because then, of course, there'd be questions as to who might have done it, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So it's like a little reverse blackmail extortion thing going on. They did this for a long time. That's not why he was in prison, but he felt like the charge he got was bogus, but karma came for him. And so, he took his licks like a man. So I think there's a tie-in here, Ron. I think if I did some name searches, I would find that this girl may or may not be associated with some other people that maybe tie in, okay? Because it's the same neighborhood, it's the same time frames. It sounds very familiar.
More breaking news as well. A former candidate for governor of California has been arrested. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Haskell joins us now with what we're learning about the charges against Stephen Klubeck. Josh.
Philip, billionaire Stephen Klubeck turned himself into the LA County Sheriff's Department at their West Hollywood station on Tuesday morning on a felony warrant for alleged violation of dissuading or intimidating a witness or a victim of a crime. Eyewitness News has learned that Klubeck was or still is romantically involved with a Los Angeles model named Adva Levi, who also goes by Mia Ventura. That is the same person we've been reporting on for months, who was accused of targeting older men on dating apps and then burglarizing their homes. According to the complaint, Klubeck attempted to prevent at least 2 alleged victims of Levi from testifying against her back in March. Now, back in March, the Los Angeles County District Attorney ordered Adva Levi to stand trial on 6 felony charges. District Attorney Nathan Hochman said her ability to deceptively influence others, whether in person or online, has now come to an end. Detectives say Levi extorted wealthy older men and younger women in Westlake Village, West Hollywood, Los Angeles, and Beverly Hills. They say she posed as a girlfriend or travel companion, then stole cash, credit cards, and high-end designer items. If convicted on all counts, Levi faces up to over 11 years in state prison. Now, Klubeck, he has been released after posting $300,000 bail. Philip?
That was the guy that was backing Eric Swalwell, that was obstructing witnesses from testifying against his girlfriend.
The trust is busted.
The trust is busted, bro. Wow. Woo. I tell you what, my little journey through the prison system, I feel like half the scandals that happen in the world are like, hey, I know a guy. I know a guy who was paying off Kamala Harris in San Francisco and as the AG. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know a guy. I know a guy who knew her and was literally paying her drug money to, look the other way when their little boats would pull into port and unload their drugs. I know a guy. Oh, my goodness. So funny. Now, obviously, with Donald Trump, there's lots of stuff happening in the bureaucracy around him. It's hard to staff the White House. It's hard to staff all these different bureaucracies with people that are completely on board with the MAGA agenda.
Yeah. That's why he's got sharks all over.
Yeah. Now, the way the government traditionally is run, and J.D. Vance kind of talked about this, and you also heard Mehmet Oz talk about this, is each department has their own power structure, with the cabinet secretary sitting on top. And if one department finds fraud, they've got to send a memo to the other department, which then goes to some legal department, and then they process it and decide if it's worth looking into. And then so there's like these chain of commands full of committees and bureaucracies, and the cabinet officials don't ever really talk about what's being transmitted between the two. So even if the Treasury sees some fraud and he sends it over to the HHS may not make the cabinet secretary aware of it.
Well, it might not rise to the level of that it needs attention. Or
yeah,
whatever.
they just keep issuing permits and licenses and things like that, right? So you never get a full picture of the fraud that's happening. So James O'Keefe traditionally has targeted leftist group because frankly they're the most corrupt, but it's everywhere.
Target rich environment. Well,
in the last couple of weeks, he's targeted Fox News. We had a Fox News executive who came out basically saying, yeah, we're doing everything we can to obstruct Donald Trump. And I pay for hookers and strip clubs with company money and it's marketing money. It's free money, right? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then he also targeted the Trump White House and people who work inside the White House. So here's James Rosen on American Agenda. This is a Newsmax program, and he's talking about these recent videos. Now, I mentioned these the other day, but just like all of his videos, I know there's long. I just can't play a 15-minute video, although we are going to play a 15-minute video in private today that is crucial. So stick around for that one.
All right.
But anyways, we're going to watch this, and it has the highlights of these undercover videos that James O'Keefe got out of the White House. Both of these individuals have been fired.
While the self-described guerrilla journalist James O'Keefe has historically trained his sting operations on left-wing targets, his most recent victims have included a Fox News executive and now a pair of domestic policy officials inside the Trump White House. Maxim Lott, seen here at screen left, was brought on board as a special assistant to the president for domestic policy. Benjamin Elliston at screen right was serving until yesterday's White House action, placing him on administrative leave as a senior budget analyst in the White House Office of Management and Budget. The swiftness of the action taken against Elliston is easy to understand once you hear the comments he was caught making to O'Keefe's operative.
Get rid of Trump. Seriously. He's a mess. He's with him at the top, it's next to impossible to do anything. He's a madman. Literally.
Lott has since defended his comments, reportedly asserting that nothing he said contradicts the president or his agenda, but his remarks to the O'Keefe Media Group were hardly flattering either.
Like the decision-making processes are a little bit. I think it's just the right now. There's no like, oh well, this will cost $10 million, but like save people $20 million. There's like nothing like that. It's just like it feels like a good idea, or like they support this or
It's not at all clear that when these individuals were caught in James O'Keefe's sting operations, are showing up at these locations and finding themselves surreptitiously recorded, that they understand at all that they're meeting with a journalist. I think the common term used is honey trap, and so many times in these sting videos we see the victims of them saying, "Are you sure you're not a spy? Because the questions you're asking are exactly the type of way you get information out of people like me." There is almost such a willingness to believe here, and that is key to the wool being pulled over these people's eyes. Mr. O'Keefe himself posted online on social media, if you're meeting with a 10 and you yourself are a 5, it's because I hired her.
That's funny.
It's really funny. The last guy said something interesting. The decision-making process is they're not following the bureaucracy. They're getting right to it.
Yeah.
The political heads are now talking, and which then they turn around and go, you're going to prosecute this fraud. You're going to close this down. You're going to do this. It's like what Mehmet Oz said. It's now a fist. It's working.
If you're part of the system, that might seem chaotic.
Yeah, exactly. Why are our departments talking? Why am I getting orders from the boss? I'm supposed to take the referral from the other agency and vet it first, or let it go silent.
This isn't how the system works.
Now, understanding how inside the Trump White House itself, there's this layer of resistance, this wanting to return to the norms. What are the norms? The bureaucracy's in charge. The bureaucracy rules the day. The political heads, they're just for press conferences and they're just for committee hearings. Like what happens in the bureaucracy stays in the bureaucracy, right? And so John Solomon published a report yesterday about the Arctic frost investigation and how they knew that when Trump came into office, they were not going to continue that investigation. So they crafted it in such a way that they put it on ice in order to restart it later.
Meanwhile, the world has been talking about a story that we broke overnight. Documents we got from Kash Patel's FBI reveal something a little troubling, something we didn't know. Let's remind everybody what we were told at the time. In January 2025, when President Trump was about to take his second oath of office and return to the White House, we were told that Jack Smith went to the court and dismissed all those criminal cases. Well, there's a little wrinkle to it. First off, he did not dismiss them with prejudice, meaning that they were dismissed without prejudice and they could be brought back again. But more troubling is what we learned inside the FBI's files. The FBI created a memo laying out how they could resume the case as soon as President Trump returned or left office in 2029, and they extended the retention of the evidence, something that normally doesn't happen. When you close down a case in the FBI, you're supposed to give back the evidence, disband it, erase it, and be done with it. But not when it came to Donald Trump. No, in the Arctic frost investigation, the one involving January 6th, the FBI extended its hold on its evidence to 2030, 2 years after President Trump will have left office. All the markings of a plan or a plot to set up the president to be indicted anew on these old charges after he leaves office. The documents are up at justthenews.com. Members of Congress have been reacting all day to this story.
I have a sneaky suspicion that when Donald Trump kind of settles out this nonsense with Iran, you're going to see a house cleaning. I just have a sneaky suspicion because at that point, he's got control of the international stuff, the threats that he has. Maybe this meeting with China, he's going to say, knock it off, right? Knock it off. When we get into private, we're going to be listening to Patrick Byrne. Maduro is singing like a canary on everybody, including Chairman Xi. Okay. In fact, Marco Rubio, who put on the same exact tracksuit that Maduro was wearing when he was arrested, that picture went out viral out of Air Force One. That was Trump's way of saying to Xi, I have your man, right? I've got your guy. So pretty interesting. Now, in China, Fox News, as we play, you going to read that Rumble Premium?
Yeah, anytime.
Let's do it.
Boom. So, you've probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom and content you actually care about. That's the deal. Pew.
Yeah. Now, if you're not a Rumble Premium member, you're going to want to be, because when we get to the private, we've got a banger of a video we're going to watch. Yeah. It's a good one. It's a good one. So Fox News over in China, guess what, Ron? They got caught by the AI. They got a ticket. This is what's coming here if we don't stand for our independence, okay? If the government can print all the money they want, they're going to invest in this kind of nonsense, okay? But if we use Bitcoin and we go onto a sound money, these investments might not get the return that they're looking for.
Big Brother is watching. There are literally cameras everywhere in Beijing. We are outside the Haidian station, and I can count at least 20 on this corner. In fact, in Beijing, they've added 1,500 cameras just this year alone. They see everything. There's nobody jaywalking here because they could get a ticket right away. In fact, our driver parked illegally for 2 minutes, and he got a message on his phone that he got a ticket for about $40 US. because they saw it on the camera. Now, there are real questions what the CCP's goal is about citizen tracking and social scoring. They say it's to make everybody feel safe. These cameras are watching every minute. They're everywhere. And while they're watching us here in China, we hope you continue to watch. Special report from Beijing.
Yeah. And what did we hear the King of England say the other day? We want to move to digital IDs. I've directed my ministers to institute that. Nigel Farage responded to that because that's the model we go if we don't get control of our government, right? You'll get a ticket on your cell phone minutes after jaywalking, 2 minutes after parking illegally, boop, ticket. Have you ever considered how many rules you break every day like that? You know,
you don't even know how many rules you're
U-turns
breaking.
where you're not supposed to make U-turns, going 5 miles over the speed limit, jaywalking. I mean, goodness gracious. So Nigel Farage, who, you know, his party has taken over a large number of council seats in this last election in England, stands against this digital ID program because at its core, it's not going to do what they're telling you it's going to do.
So the Prime Minister says we must have digital ID. That's the way we'll stop illegal immigration. Well, think about it. Germany has ID cards, strict ID and checks. It's made no difference at all in Germany, and nor will it here. All that digital ID will be is a means of controlling the population, of telling us what we can and can't do, of fining the innocent. And didn't we see it all when we had the pandemic, when you had to have vaccine ID to travel, to do various things? Did that stop the COVID pandemic spreading? Did it? Hell, all it did was put cost and inconvenience on everybody else. I also worry about massive data banks being held by the government, being hacked by foreign governments, by private companies, by criminals. I do not see a single benefit to the government having digital ID other than them controlling what we do, what we spend, and where we go. And we, in Reform, are wholly opposed to it in every single way.
So more power to them, man. Oppose it. No cameras on street corners. Different jurisdictions around the country have canceled their Flock subscriptions because they found out they could be hacked. They're actually open source, right? And like in Washington, they can't use the Flock cameras around schools and around places with illegal immigrants. God, don't want to enforce the law because that was the point of them. Right. So that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I kind of support the anti-government tracking thing. On the election front, Georgia is now getting in on the redistricting game. This whole Democrat push to gerrymander Virginia and California has backfired on them in spectacular fashion.
In an extremely rare move, Governor Brian Kemp is calling lawmakers back to the Capitol for a special session.
It is to address some outstanding election issues, mainly a fast-approaching July 1st deadline set by Georgia's legislators. Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon is live for us at the Capitol. Doug, what will lawmakers have on their plates when they arrive back?
And that will happen, Carly and Joe, at 2 o'clock on June 17th. That is the date that was set for the start of this very rare, exceedingly rare, in fact, special election. And they will be dealing with some outstanding election issues. That July 1st deadline that you mentioned is top of the list. That is when those QR codes that we have on our ballots right now that are used to tabulate our votes become illegal. And that was something that actually the legislature imposed on themselves a couple of years ago when they passed that bill in 2024, setting that deadline. It followed a lot of skepticism about QR codes and fears over the security of that method, but lawmakers wrapped up this session here a few months ago without picking a replacement method for counting votes all this time later, and that created worries about how we would count ballots in the upcoming November midterms. Keep in mind, we still do not have a way to do that, and so Kemp said lawmakers will address it during that special session. And, of course, after that Supreme Court decision last month that banned racial gerrymandering, they may also redraw Georgia's congressional maps for 2028. We have a presidential election that year. It is something Republicans badly want to do and something Democrats fear will dilute the votes of many minority communities.
Okay. Your vote won't be diluted. You'll still just get one vote.
Right.
It's just you'll probably have more in common with the people you're voting with. You're not going to have these massive gerrymandered districts. Hakeem Jeffries was asked in a press conference if the Democrats are, if it was a dumb move for them to push so hard in Virginia. And APAC Secure here, Dollar Store Obama, your favorite speech cadence responds to that. It's kind of funny. This, again, the desperation here.
And so Susan Del Bene said earlier today, we're going to win back control of the House.
Okay.
And the big fight will be what happens in between 2026 and 2028. Because we know this unprecedented assault on Black political representation, the likes of which we have not seen since the Jim Crow era, the ghosts of the Confederacy has afflicted the United States Supreme Court majority and is invading and haunting the nation right now, and we take that seriously. And we know it's going to continue, which is why Democrats are committed to launching a decisive and overwhelming response in advance of the 2028 election to ensure that it's the American people who are the ones who get to decide who's in the majority in the House, who's in the majority in the Senate, and ultimately in 2028, who gets elected as the next president of the United States of America.
You know, it's rich. Well, how many votes did Kamala Harris get in her primary?
I don't know, 1 or 2 or 0.
0. All right. How many votes? She got 0 votes. Okay. So the Democrat Party has proven time and time again that you don't need voters to be on ballots, even for the president. You can just, the party can just say, we're swapping out Biden after he ran a primary and won with Kamala Harris. We're just going to swap him out. George Clooney apparently gets to decide.
Yeah.
The Democrat politicians who may or may not have been elected in the first place are going to decide what the districts look like so that they have the probable believability that, because that district is full of Black people, yeah, of course the Democrat ran away with it.
Oh, yeah.
Even to the point where you have the guy in Tennessee, the Kentucky Fried Chicken eater that is like a Cohen, a joke of a representative. I mean, he's a meme of a rich plantation white guy. You know what I mean? He's a meme of that. And he's in one of these Black districts. Do you think Black people really elected Cohen? I mean, honestly, like he's the kind of person that even white people look at him in disgust. Do you think Black people are like, that guy represents me?
That's my man.
Yeah. Look at him up there eating Kentucky Fried Chicken. Really interesting. I'm going to touch on this, but up in Alberta, right? They had they got enough signatures to put succession on the ballot.
Yeah.
Well, a judge up there has tossed it out. Just 300,000 people. No, out. So Danielle Smith, who is, I think she's the attorney general equivalent up there. She says that we'll be appealing it as the voters believe there's an error in the law and it's anti-democratic. So the system in Canada, the King's Court, the judges have decided, no, none of the succession stuff. Even though in the law, we say you can do that. We never intended you to do it. Okay.
And
so
besides,
kind of
we're still a king.
Yeah, that's going to roll out as a pretty ugly fight.
Oh, boy.
Now, one of the things that our founding fathers established in our country is the idea that different jurisdictions compete with each other. The entire United States is one petri dish of cities and counties and states. And when one state institutes a policy, if it works really well, other states can copy it.
Yeah.
If one state or one county or one city institute a policy and it works poorly, then other states can avoid doing those things.
And I constantly believe that the county that I live in, the county that we live in, is one of these test bed petri dishes.
It is a test bed petri dish. I do believe that. So here's a example. This is 2 cities that compete. This is in Washington State. And the heading of this little meme here is same county, same time, different results. This was a 30-year study. So bottom line, this was a 30-year, they looked at over 30 years of data, 20 years of data, 20 years of data side by side here. So this is pretty conclusive how different cities in the same county. Now, you can see these 2 cities from each other. There's a lake in Washington called Lake Washington, and it separates Seattle, which is butted up against the Puget Sound, and Bellevue, Issaquah, Renton, Woodinville, Kirkland, which is butted up against the Cascade Mountains.
And a lot of the tech moguls live around the lake in between.
They've lived in both places.
Yeah.
Okay. So Seattle metro area, you've got SeaTac, you've got Linwood, you've got Edmonds. Over on the Bellevue side, you've got Kirkland, you've got Woodinville, you've got Bothell. But both of these cities are literally across the lake from each other. Okay. The lake runs long north and south, and these two metro areas are close. It's one general metro area. They're in the same county. In Seattle, they spend $8,677 per resident, which is 1 times more than Bellevue. Bellevue spends $4,653 per resident, 19% less since 2006. They have dropped their tax burden and their public expenditures. In Seattle, violent crime per 100,000 is 542. In Bellevue, violent crime per 100,000 is 99. Property crime in Seattle per 100,000 is 4,100. Property crime in Bellevue is 2,000, half. 4-year graduation rate in Seattle, 88%. 4-year graduation rate in Bellevue, 94%. Number one in Washington. Median household income in Seattle, $121,984. I know, stunning, right? Median household income in Bellevue, $161,000.
40 grand. It's the other side of the lake. What's going on?
I know. Here's a real kicker. Life expectancy in Seattle, 71.6 years. Life expectancy in Bellevue, 84.2 years.
Dang, that's 12 years extra.
Yeah. Homelessness in King County, 7,900 is in 2006 is up to 16,868, 113% increase. And we've lost 4,000 students since 2019 in Seattle. Bottom line, Seattle spends nearly twice as much per resident and gets worse results on safety, schools, homelessness, and life expectancies. Dollars to outcome gap is the real story. Policy matters. If Seattle was smart, they would look at what Bellevue is doing and they would just photocopy it.
Yeah.
And let the results happen. But instead, they've got their little ideology, got their little thing.
Bellevue's not communist yet.
Not yet. They're close. I'm not saying they're great. Okay? We're all in the state of Washington. It's not great. The reason for this kind of faction is a lot of times our media tries to point out things like, oh, look, there's 2 homeless people here, whatever the case is. TMZ, who sometimes does good reporting, sometimes they have a clear agenda. They had this little interview with Spencer Pratt running for mayor down in LA. And he did a video where he did a campaign ad with an Airstream on his property, where he lives. His place of residence, his voter registration is on this property where his house burnt down.
Oh, okay.
So he does this ad and he goes, this is where I live, right? This is my house, this burnt down lot with an Airstream on it.
Okay.
Now, he doesn't sleep there. He's running for office. It's highly problematic security-wise. He sleeps in a hotel, which is temporary.
Yeah.
Okay. His family sleeps in a place in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
It's temporary.
Okay.
They live.
Oh, are they trying to say he's not a resident and he can't be elected there?
No. They're trying to say you don't live in the Airstream. He's like, no, I live here. This is my house.
Right.
This is what the mayor did to me. I'm not saying I sleep here. Anywhere I sleep is a temporary accommodation because I live here.
Yeah.
So listen to this exchange. We'll just listen to a couple minutes of it.
Campaign ad certainly made it seem that you were living in that trailer. It was a high point of the commercial, but you're at the Hotel Bel Air. So kind of undo that for us.
No, to be clear, that is where, excuse me, that is where I live. That's where Karen Bass, Mayor Bass, burned down my house. That is where I will live until I have a new house. The Airstream is a temporary facility. A hotel is a temporary facility. Where my kids are in Santa Barbara right now is a temporary housing. This is where I live this is where they burned my house down. So this semantics or the nuance of this is the consequences of their failed leadership. And again, I don't live at the Hotel Bel Air. I don't live in the Airstream. I don't live in the Santa Barbara. I don't have a house. They burned it down. That is why I got into this race, because of these people that will burn your house down and act like it's no problem. So this idea that anyone's like, oh, he's at a hotel. I'm at a hotel because these psychopaths are messaging me every day. They're going to kill me because Nithya Raman is calling me a fascist because I don't want people to have their kids next to drug addicts at the park or stepping in human poop when you get your matcha. I have common sense. That's not fascism. So these psychos here, I'm a fascist. And then they literally, like, if you would like to see the death threats, I can send them all offline where people are like, I'm going to hire people to kill you. So yes, unfortunately, now I have a security team and they will not, even if I wanted to stay in the Airstream, would let me because there's 360 unobstructed views since there's no houses. So you can literally snipe me out from any part from 300 yards away easily.
Spencer,
one sec. Not to mention, the Airstream, it took over a month for LADWP to connect a wire for electricity to it, which was 3 days ago. It took weeks to get the water hooked up, which was yesterday. So for these people that want to focus on where I sleep at night, first off, I don't even sleep. I get 4 hours of sleep because I'm fighting these corrupt freaking politicians all day long. You want to see my phone hours? I'll screenshot it. It probably says 19 hours.
I hear what you're saying, and on the symbolism of your ad that because of the fire that you don't have a home, and I get that, but there's something to the point where you say in the ad, "This is where I live," while you're standing in front of a trailer. I think the reason that ad was so effective with voters is because you did draw this visual comparison of where the mayor lives, where Nithya Raman lives, and where you live. So you're showing where they live, and then you're saying, this is where I live. Everyone saw that ad and thought, wow, Spencer Pratt has to live in that trailer because his house burned down.
I do, sir. But that is my house.
But for the last month and a half, you've been at the Bel Air Hotel.
I haven't been at the Bel Air Hotel for more than 6 days in the last month. This is all public on my things.
But that's where you've been staying. I know you may not have actually been in it.
So do you see even these guys? Where do you live? Well, that's my address.
Right.
That's where I live.
Right.
I'm staying somewhere else because that's my house.
This whole thing is so asinine. This is exactly this is not exactly. This is not the primary reason, but this right here is one of the reasons why I do not want to run for office, even though I feel like I need to, because I'm right on board with this guy. What's his name?
Spencer Pratt.
Spencer Pratt. I'm sorry, I don't even know you, dude, but I feel like you're channeling everything that I believe, and I don't want to be arguing with TMZ guys about where I live. This is the stupidest argument ever. I mean, where's he supposed to live with his house burned down?
But see, this is supposed to be a hit piece, as if, oh, you're living in the life of luxury over at the Bel Air Hotel. It's like, I don't live there.
Right.
I'm staying there because where I live is a burnt down lot with an Airstream on it.
Right, but we got to get semantic here, and but you said,
but you're not staying in the Airstream. I never said I was.
No, I've been in Santa Barbara where the LA Times reported where I lived and doxed me. That is where I live. Period. This is LA Times. This isn't breaking news. Even when the Airstream ad came out, the LA Times cover story is saying no. Spencer Pratt lives in Santa Barbara. And I said, yes, thank you for doxing me. I tried to sue the LA Times for saying where I actually live.
But are you saying you live in that trailer?
I don't live anywhere is what I'm saying. I don't have a house. They burned it down, Harvey. I don't have a house.
But why not say that? But Spencer, that would be really effective. Why not say that in the ad? I don't have a home.
You texted me today. I have never told anyone I lived in it. And yet in the ad, you say, this is where I live.
This is my house. This is my property. There's nothing there, Harvey. It's dirt lot. I had to have it craned in to the lot. That's what people are. This is psycho. I only got on this live because I love you. But so last time I'm going to talk about this because the reason I am running is because they burned down 7,000 houses. This is where everyone lives. They don't not consider that their home just because it's a dirt lot, because it's an Airstream, a teepee, a tent. When you're a fire victim, this is where you live. They burn it down. This is where I always will live. People are missing the messaging of the consequences.
But Spencer,
the idea that TMZ is hanging on the difference between where you live, aka where you're staying, like, right now I'm living at the hotel temporarily, but I reside, I domicile on that burnt down lot.
Right. And they're like, they keep focusing on the Airstream and completely ignoring the lot that the Airstream is on. I mean, they're really fighting hard their own mental gymnastics here.
Big time. So yeah, anyways, like you said, Ron, he's channeling the frustration so many of us have. Oh, okay. So yesterday also, Ron Johnson had the hearing with the COVID whistleblower. Mm-hmm. While that hearing was happening, the CIA made a statement. Mm-hmm. You're not following the norms. You're not supposed to interview this guy. He doesn't have permission to go and whistle blow. Okay. So Ron Johnson got this message. Now, the right wing, and I'm going to kind of show this here in a second. Something had happened a while ago, and because of this little CIA statement, it created an open door for Anna Paulina Luna and a few others to overblow something that happened. So we'll cover that in a second. But listen to Ron Johnson reading this CIA spokesperson's statement in regards to the hearing yesterday.
Just received this from Liz Lyon, the CIA Director of Public Affairs. The committee acted in bad faith by subpoenaing an agency officer for testimony today without notifying CIA. Despite having already obtained closed-door testimony from the individual previously, the witness testifying today is not appearing as a whistleblower in pursuit of the truth, but instead in response to the subpoena issued by Chairman Paul. This proceeding amounts to nothing more than a dishonest political theater masquerading as a congressional hearing, as the CIA has already assessed COVID-19 most likely originated from the lab leak, and efforts to undermine that conclusion are disingenuous. I'm calling on CIA Director Radcliffe and this person to apologize to Chairman Paul and this committee. This is not political theater. I have years and years and years of built-up frustration of agencies like the CIA, Department of Justice, the FBI, HHS, snubbing our oversight, giving us the big middle finger. Just received this from...
Big deal there. Basically like, okay, so are you going to deny this? Oh, no, it's just procedurally, you weren't supposed to do that. Now, CIA, because of that, got into the hot chair yesterday. And what happened was Anna Paulina Luna got onto Fox News. She got on with Katie Pavlovich. She got onto Newsmax, and she got onto OAN All. And she said that, and it was implied that this happened yesterday, that the CIA, while Donald Trump is out of town, raided Tulsi Gabbard's office and took 45 boxes of documents that Donald Trump had declassified and Tulsi Gabbard was going through to release. This included information about MK Ultra, the COVID cover-up. It included information about January 6th, about the 2020 election, about the RFK about the JFK assassination. So stuff that we really want to know about, right? That they raided her office and just took it from her. So that was what was running around the news yesterday. Okay. Turns out that was false. Okay. The CIA did not raid the DNI's office. Here's the correction. Update on this, more on Katie Pavlovich at 10 p.m. on News, I guess it was News Nation. The documents were not taken today. It was not a raid on DNI's office. People from the CIA took documents related to the JFK assassination and MK Ultra, as well as the others, from the National Reconnaissance Office last year. In the middle of the night during the government shutdown, and have not returned and is withholding from ODNI. So I'm not sure which is better or worse. The sensational story was they raided the office today, but the reality is they took those documents, of which Tulsi Gabbard has direct jurisdiction over, and will not turn them over. Because the CIA is withholding these documents, they cannot be declassified and scanned for public release. The CIA doesn't think they answer to anyone. I doubt CIA Director Ratcliffe even knew about it. But now it's in the public eye. Now, there was another report that came out yesterday. This was by Veritas Recagnant. This is Joseph Hanneman and Steve Baker's outfit after they left the blaze. And it's reporting on January 6th. So, Capitol Police, this is the headline. And this website yesterday was hacked, or came under a DDoS attack. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically some super servers all attack the website as if 1 million people are trying to log in at the same time, and it crashes their servers. So they were down for after this. You know how many stories break that the websites don't go under DDoS attack?
Yeah.
So when the story breaks and the server goes down because of a DDoS attack, hello, there's your sign. Okay, there's your sign. You've clearly got intelligence agencies that don't want this information out, right? This isn't like, excuse me, AT&T attacking the site or, Microsoft. This is the work of an intelligence agency. Capitol Hill Police, in an intentional and malicious January 6th conspiracy to create a disaster and sack Chief Stephen Sund, a whistleblower says. And so in here's a whistleblower disclosure that was sent to Mike Johnson, Chuck Grassley, Ron Johnson, Barry Loudermilk, and Tony Nils. And in here, it specifies that there was a text message that was sent the morning of January 6th by Sergeant Larry Kirk, current Assistant Sergeant at Arms in the House of Representatives, to Deputy Sean Gallagher. As I understand it, the message states that Yogananda Pittman was, quote, excited about taking over for Sund today. As in, this is going to cause him to get fired. And he was. I further report that the message and related exchange were in the possession of a House committee being blocked for adjudicating this as an official investigation. In my judgment, the message is highly probative and may clarify events before, during, and after January 6th. In my view, it suggests a planned and foreknowledge by members of the USCP, United States Capitol Police, and staff that January 6th was going to be so tragic that it would justify the Democratic leadership terminating Chief Sund and promoting Pittman and Gallagher. Also, I would indicate the withholding of critical intelligence from the USCP chief, operational commanders, and members of Congress was intentional and malicious. It then goes on to talk about how the leadership of the Capitol Police just sat around.
Yeah, this is not shocking.
Until Ashley Babbitt was shot, then they sprung into action. So this investigation, it suggests a plan and foreknowledge by members of the USCP and staff that January 6th was going to be so tragic it would justify the Democratic leadership in terminating Chief Sund. Remember, Donald Trump authorized 10,000 National Guardsmen to be there for security, and they wouldn't take it.
We've had episode after episode of all of the pre-planning efforts.
Yeah. I assert that Sergeant Cook's January 6th message fundamentally alters the understanding of responsibility for January 6th, presenting what I believe is direct evidence of a conspiracy involving USCP personnel and Democratic staff. So this, and then they were excited to take over. So good article. Go read it. It's worth the read. I have a video that I'm not going to play because it's documentary style, but it's one of the areas where there started to be violence, and there's one of the inspectors for the Capitol Hill Police signals to the people up on the terrace to open fire, lethal fire on the protesters. And then it shows in slow motion the pepper balls coming and hitting these guys in the head. On the gun that's being shot on one of the body cameras, it says, do not aim for the head, may cause life-threatening damage and death, right? And they're shooting. We're talking sniper shots at the heads of people. One of the individuals shot in the cheek and is scarred up to this day. That's the picture you see with the guy with the big hole in his cheek. He's standing right there, just standing there, and all of a sudden shoots him, right? So as this was happening, that's what ginned up the crowd to start to get kind of violent, because now there's pepper spray in the air, and these pepper balls are literally hitting guys in the head, like hitting him in the head and the hat flies off, like with some significant force, all at the direction of Capitol Hill Police. They fired first. Okay. Now, as we head into private, I want to play a little clip to kind of wrap up this whole thing. I've never heard anybody sum this up better than Roseanne Barr.
They stole that election in 2020. They gave us a goddamn COVID so we'd send in those mail order ballots and all that bullshit, and the post office cheated too. Everybody in this country cheated us out of our president in 2020. They made us sick. I'm sorry.
Go, baby.
Overthrew the United States of America. Overthrew the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America.
I don't know if you can hear that, but she's yelling, they overthrew the America.
It's bullshit.
Oh, this sounds horrible. Sorry, guys. It's a really good rant. All right, we're going to jump over to private. Please join us in private. We're going to be listening to Patrick Byrne on with Emerald Robinson, and we're going to play the whole clip. Okay, and it is worth listening to because it ties in together all this China stuff, the Maduro stuff, and it's Patrick Byrne is absolutely on the inside of all this stuff. He spent the last 4 years literally traveling around the world, collecting this information, coordinating with all the CIA operatives down in Venezuela and stuff like that. Turns out our government, specifically the CIA, may have created the Chavez regime and helped him create these voting machines for the express purpose of eventually overthrowing the United States itself, so they could sit at the top of it and run things in from the shadows. So we're going to jump over to private. Thank you for joining us today. Those of you that can't join us, we're going to be listening to that in private. It is a fundamental piece for us peasants to understand. Again, these are the type of clips and things that help us unpack all the things that are happening in government and around the world, and why there's so much resistance from groups like the CIA, the FBI, the Comeys, the Brennans of the world, the Obamas, right? And why there's so much political intrigue internationally. Why did we go do the thing in Iran? Is it just because Maduro was selling drugs? Why are we dealing with, or not Iran, Venezuela? Why are we dealing with Iran? Why is Cuba next, right? Why are we putting China in a box? It all ties together when you understand the back end of this and what Roseanne was ranting about, how they literally overthrew our government. A plan long in the making. Donald Trump stood in the way of that plan. They created the Russiagate narrative to try to run him out of office. That didn't work. Ukrainegate, that didn't work. COVID, that didn't work. 2020 election, Trump won. Ballot mail-in fraud because of COVID and the suspension of state constitutions as to how ballots are acquired and counted. And then they covered it up with January 6th. Enter us into the story. All right. We'll see you guys.